I'm writing this because I don't know what to do or where to go anymore. So, if something happens to me, at least someone will know. My dad left my mom when I was really young. I was 10 and my sister was 2 at the time. Mom was absolutely devastated. He just picked up his bags and left without even explaining why. Mom was a wreck after that. She still loved and cared for us, but she was never the same. Things were tough after Dad left. Mom had a job, but it barely paid for our rent. She couldn't buy food for all of us, just enough for my sister and I. She would skip meals all the time. I took it as her not being hungry, but I walked in on her crying in her room one night, eating an old piece of bread. She did her best to take care of us. She would apply for better jobs almost every day, but without a college degree and being a high school dropout, she could never get them. After 5 years of living like this, things actually started looking up for us. After working for so long in that shitty job, Mom got a promotion, which came with a pay raise. It wasn't a lot, enough to feed the 3 of us and for Mom to save up a bit. A year passed after Mom's promotion, and she hit us with the good news. She had saved a good amount of money and was able to buy a cheap but perfect house in the woods in another town, where she also found a better paying job. It sounded so great. I could see the spark of happiness in her eyes as she was telling us the news. It felt so good to see her glowing like that. I hadn't seen her smile in so long. Life was starting to get better. We packed our stuff and got in the car. The house was already furnished, so we just had to take our clothes and our crappy TV. After hours of driving, Mom took a turn to the right onto a dirt road that went into the woods and would lead us directly to the front of the house. After 20 minutes on this dirt road, I realized how far deep into the woods the house actually was. The road led to a big clearing in the form of a circle. The house sat in the middle of it, surrounded by the woods. We got out of the car and I took a look around. All I could see was the thick forest surrounding us, until I spotted the swings on the left side of the house, almost hidden behind it. "Jessie, look," I said to my little sister as I pointed at the swings. "Cool. Can I play?" she blurted out joyfully. Mom smiled and told her to go ahead. Wasting no time, Jessie darted towards the swings. I told my mom that we should have taken a look first to see if it was safe, since it looked really old. She assured me that the previous owner made sure everything was in perfect condition before we moved in. It didn't look that way. We took the boxes inside while Jessie stayed outside playing on the swings. I began to look around inside. Unlike the house, the furniture looked new at least. Mom said she was driving to town to buy a few things and visit the place she was going to work at, but would be home soon. The sun started to set and Jessie came inside. Mom arrived minutes later with groceries and a surprise for her. She put a cardboard box on the floor and told Jessie to open it. It was a cat, a little yellow one. Jessie was so happy. She always wanted one. "I'm gonna name him Mr. Catterson," she said as she picked him up and hugged him. Jessie looked so happy, and so did my mom. It was good to see them like this. Night came. Jessie and Mom stayed in the living room watching a movie, while I went to my room to settle my stuff. Around midnight, I came downstairs and found them both sleeping on the couch. I turned off the TV, covered Mom with a blanket, and picked Jessie up. "Time to go to bed, Jessie." "No, I want to play with that kid," she mumbled back, still asleep. She never talked in her sleep before, at least not that I knew of. I asked her, "What kid?" trying to keep my voice down not to wake her. She just snuggled her face into my chest and didn't reply. So I took her to her room and then walked across the hallway back to mine. The next morning was normal. Mom was cooking breakfast, and Jessie was on the couch with her new friend watching cartoons. I made my way downstairs and sat on a stool at the counter. Mom put some scrambled eggs on my plate, and I gave her a small thanks. She asked me what I thought of my first night here at the new house, and if I liked it here. I didn't like it, and I didn't hate it either. But I couldn't tell her that. She looked so joyful. So I told her I loved it. She went on and asked me what I had planned for the day. I told her I was going to take a walk in the woods. Jessie heard us. "Can I come? I want to see a deer." I didn't want to take her with me, but she kept on asking, "Please, please, please." "Fine, go put on some shoes then," I replied, trying to calm her down. We left the house and went into the woods. There, we began to talk. I told her she was mumbling some stuff in her sleep last night about some kid. "Yeah, he kept asking me to come outside to play with him," she said, skipping over a log on the ground. I assumed she was talking about a dream and asked her what else happened in it. "I told him I couldn't because it was late, but he kept telling me that it was okay and to come outside." "Your friend sounds really insistent," I said as we walked through the forest. "Yeah, I know. He kept knocking on my window after you put me in bed." Shivers went down my spine when I heard that. I told myself that maybe she just dreamed that I was putting her in bed, just like in real life. I asked her if what she just said happened in her dream, too. "No, you woke me up when you closed the door after putting me on my bed. That's when I heard a knock on the glass. I looked at the window and saw him. He kept knocking and knocking, telling me to come out." That made my blood run cold. I suddenly felt like we were being watched and felt sick to my stomach. I picked Jessie up and headed back to the house. Mom was about to leave for work. I told her everything that happened and that I didn't think we should stay here. She told me to calm down, that I was overreacting and it was just Jessie's imagination. I took a deep breath. She was right. Jessie was 8 after all. It could have just been her imagination. Our family always believed in this kind of stuff and told stories. Maybe that's why I got so freaked out. I calmed myself down and tried to forget about it. Mom went to work and Jessie and I stayed home. The day passed, night came, and Mom called to say she was working late that night. Later, I put Jessie on her bed after she'd fallen asleep as usual, and went to my room. After hours of messing on my phone, I decided to go to sleep too. A couple of hours later, I was awoken by rapid footsteps. I looked at the door and saw Jessie standing there. Everything was dark except for the lights of the hallway coming from behind her, making so I could see only her silhouette. "Jessie, what are you doing? Go back to bed." She stood there silent for a few seconds. Then she turned around and slowly walked away. I got up and closed my door. Was she trying to scare me? I went back to bed and tried to fall asleep again. The next morning was like any other. Mom making scrambled eggs, Jesse watching TV. The only difference was the atmosphere. This creepy feeling that I couldn't shake off. I figured I was still a bit creeped out from yesterday and tried to ignore it. As I ate the eggs Mom had made for me, she talked about her new job and our new lives, but I wasn't paying attention. I couldn't stop staring at the woods through the window. I couldn't look away. The more I stared at it, the worse that ominous feeling in the pit of my stomach got. I was getting nauseated. I was only able to break the gaze as I ran to the bathroom to vomit. After that, Mom went to work, and I decided to spend the rest of the day in my room with my phone, trying to shake that feeling, but still glancing at the damn woods through my window every now and then. There is something wrong with those woods. Jessie was out playing at the swings with her cat. It was around 5 in the afternoon, and she had been there since 8 a.m. The video I was watching on YouTube ended, and there was a brief silence. That's when I heard Jessie giggling and talking to someone. I walked up to my window to see who was there with her. I looked down and saw her laughing and talking by herself, as if someone was right in front of her. Suddenly, she stopped, turned around, and looked right at me. Even from the distance, I could see the pure hatred in her eyes. I had never seen her look so angry. I walked away from the window and sat on my bed. What the hell was she doing? And how did she notice me? My room is on the 2nd floor, and we were like 40 feet away from each other. But what was really freaking me out was the way she looked back at me. The way she turned around. It was as if someone told her that I was looking. Another hour went by. I went downstairs and made my way outside to where she was. She was crouched down by the swings with her back to me. "Jessie, come inside," I shouted. She ignored me and kept playing and laughing. "Jessie, come inside, now!" I snapped. She went completely silent, and I watched as she slowly rose up and just stood there, staring at the woods for maybe a minute. Then she started walking to the opposite side of where I was and disappeared behind the house. Soon after, I heard the sound of the back door being pulled open and then slamming shut. Standing outside alone, I was suddenly overwhelmed with a feeling that I was being watched again. From everywhere. I quickly went inside and shut the door behind me, making sure to lock it. Once inside, I peeked out the window, taking a last look at the woods. There's something in it that draws you to it. I went to talk to Jessie. She was sitting on the floor in the middle of her room, playing with her dolls, with her back to me. "What were you doing?" I questioned as I stood by her door. She just kept playing with her dolls. No reply. "Who were you talking to?" "My friends," she replied. That was enough to freak me out. I started to walk away, but then I realized something. I turned around and asked her, "Jessie, where's Mr. Catterson?" She calmly turned her head around to look at me. "We ate him." And that's when I saw it. Her face, her chest, her hands were all covered in dried blood. Looking at her emotionless, bloodied face, I gathered the courage to ask her, Who is we, Jessie? My friends, the kids in the woods. Every hair on my body stood on end. I slowly closed her door. She stared at me with dead eyes as I did so. I locked it and backed away. I started to lock every door and window in the house as fast as I could. As I passed by a window in the living room, I saw something in my peripheral vision, so I stepped back to look at it. I saw them. They were everywhere. Some of them had blood on their face like Jessie. They were pale, really pale, and their eyes were white. No pupils, just white. They were staring into my eyes, into my soul. That same feeling from before reemerged stronger than ever. I fell to my knees and started to vomit. It's been 3 days since I saw my mom. The car she went to work with is back somehow. I think they got her. Jessie is one of them now. Her eyes turned white. She walked out the door and I didn't try to stop her. Maybe Mom turned into one of them too. I think I'm next. They're everywhere. Hundreds, maybe thousands of them. I'll try to make a run for the car.